It's a good question, Thomas. It's a difficult one to say. It generally has been a buyer's market over the last 18, 24 months. It has been a little bit depressed. We are seeing some mild recovery, some good improvement. There is a demand. We have a leading indicator called an activity and supply demand indicator. That's showing us that there is still it is very much a buyer's market still. But there's no question that sellers are becoming a little bit more confident, and that's obviously influencing time spent on market and that kind of thing. So it is a tough one to answer right now. It's mediocre. There is marginal growth. There's certainly no boom coming or anything like that just yet.
Why do you believe that demand for property in Cape Town is outstripping the rest of the country?
Well, I think there's lots of demand in the Western Cape. People want to live in the Cape. We did a survey quite some time ago about the net inward flow of blue-collar workers, and we call that semigration, so it's movement between provinces. And the Western Cape was the only province that actually showed that positive growth across the rest of the country. Surprisingly enough, there were more people wanting to purchase in the Western Cape from Joburg than from the Western Cape to Joburg. And we did also find that the youngsters tend to want to go to Joburg because that's where the money is. But once the career is stable, people want to move back to Cape Town.
What about foreign buyers in Western Cape's property market? Do they make up a big percentage?
At the moment, not a very large percentage of foreign buying happening. It's I think 4.5% at the moment, which is a very small component. It does tick up and tick down throughout the year. It seems to have stabled over the last 18 months. At one point, it was more of a concern was our immigration selling, which also seemed to tick up quite substantially. It's sitting at 7.5% 2 years ago. That also seems to have stabled at about 4.5% as well.
You state that pricing realism still seems to lack in the Western Cape property market. What do you mean by that?
Well, generally, every homeowner that's his castle, so he wants to maximize the opportunity to sell at a higher price. And we do tend to put property on the market as an unrealistic asking price. Last year we saw that around 100% of properties being sold had to drop their asking price in order to meet the buyer's offers. That's recovered somewhat, down at about 80%. We're talking about 80% of our buyers, so 8 out of 10 are needing to drop price, which also indicates that there is a need for sellers to be more realistic about the prices that they're asking for their properties. That, coupled with time spent on the market, sitting at 20 weeks, shows that there is a bit of a negotiation process. People are not really willing to go in at asking price. And then the average time or the average amount that people pay is roughly 10% less than the asking price at the moment. So it is still a very clear indicator to us that there is a need for a bit more pricing realism.
You say that the average time a property spends on the market before being sold has increased since 2010. Does this point to unrealistic property prices here in the Western Cape, or rather optimistic sellers who believe that their asking price will eventually be met?
I think it's a combination of both. You find that it's because it's been a buyer's market for quite some time. The sellers are starting to feel a little bit more confident because there's an increase in activity. You could find, and again, it's something that needs to be tracked over quarters. It's an interesting one. All indicators point towards an improvement in property market. It shows us that there is definitely a warming up to buying property. We've got a nice injection of first-time home buyers. That's on the up at 14%. All these positive factors that show us that the property market's improving, yet we have this one anomaly, which is time spent. And that is an indicator of perhaps sellers not wanting to necessarily let go of asking price.
What trends have you noticed when it comes to an increase in demand for property here in the Western Cape?
Well, again, it's the prime lending rate's low. It's at 9%. Credit is possibly easier to come by right now. First-time home buyers they can very easily get out of the market if the market turns south. So right now we're seeing that there's a demand. There's a demand for realistic prices. So first-time home buyers are coming back into the market wanting to purchase at that price or at reasonable prices. So it certainly shows us that there is a marginal recovery when it comes to supply, demand, and the type of buyer that's coming into the market.
Finally, Clinton, what advice do you have for property owners right now? Is it a good time to enter the market?
I often get asked that question. I don't know that there's really a bad time to enter the market. It's wanting to trade or sell. As long as we continue to see growth in property, and we have, it's a slowing growth at the moment. Unfortunately, quarter on quarter, we have seen a marginal drop in the growth of price. Year on year, it certainly is up. It's up a lot, and we're happy about that. As a bank, we feel obviously a lot more comfortable because there's assets and there's growth. we need to just take, bear in mind that it is marginal growth. There are still inherent factors that could influence that growth. Consumer debt is a problem still. Downscaling due to financial pressure is a big indicator for us in terms of how healthy and strong the market is. And we can see clearly that there is still a large portion of the market that's needing to downscale. So, downscaling due to financial pressure means that the client could very well be a negotiable seller. I would strongly suggest that you shop in the right areas. You need to look at the high demand areas that are turning, negotiate price. That's what it's about. It's about finding the right property in the right area.
The right property in the right area. We've heard people say before, location is everything. We're looking for a property. But what do you believe makes for a good location?
Upkeep and maintenance is very important. Obviously, that's the security that you're offering a bank. And that if you're wanting to raise finance on it, then that's something that the bank will consider. Supply and demand is also very important, largely because it gives us an indication of how well the area is doing and how much it can turn. With that comes growth, because if there's an outstrip of demand, then it means more people are prepared to pay a higher price for the value of the property. So spend time looking at what are the active areas that you're wanting to purchase into, and make sure that the upkeep and maintenance, not just on the property you're looking to purchase, but the upkeep and maintenance around the area is good as well.
Clinton, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.